Greetings, GillCube. It is I, Darth Cobain 17, back at you with a pop culture update. Been up to more stuff lately. I never stop doing stuff. Stuff is my favorite thing. So let's get right into the 5 latest things I've been up to. So I can keep this as short as possible. First up, the Avengers Infinity book. This is an interesting story, adapted from a graphic novel of some variety in the Marvel Universe. One day, suddenly, this race of beings called the Builders appears and starts raining down these deliveries to Earth, I guess you'd call them. They're not necessarily weapons, but they are, but it's this substance that covers portions of the earth and consumes everything it touches, and so people get destroyed, and they are converted into all sorts of weird creatures that start inhabiting the earth as their own domain, like big gigantic bugs and weird creatures, and they start doing these tasks that nobody knows what they're up to. And so the Avengers, of course, assemble, and a portion of them go up into outer space to deal with these builders, and Captain Marvel, Captain America, and a bunch of others. Well, Tony Stark stays on Earth and deals with the threat that's planetside. Now, these builders are this race that have been around since the beginnings of time, and they've sent their various minions throughout the universe to seed planets and create life, and then exterminate life or adapt life where they see fit when things aren't working out, sort of thing. So they are these all-knowing, all-encompassing beings that have their agenda and think they're untouchable and that their word is law. And some of these minions of theirs, the ones that seed planets and create life, one of them has kind of gone rogue. His name is Ex Nihilo, or so, I guess that's how you say it. He meets up with the Avengers that come to space at first, and they battle, but then eventually he sees the error of his ways, because he sees that his builder of overseers have lost their way and are not. They've lost their mandate. They're not necessarily creating life anymore. All they want to do is destroy it. So he teams up with the Avengers to give them information on the builders and how to stop them. But they seem so powerful that they seem unbeatable. So what happens is all the different races of the galaxy, who many are bloodthirsty, rivalries between each other, have to team up and combat this threat all together. So there's like the Kree, the Skrulls, the Shi'ar, the Earthlings, of course. So they all gather and try and find strategies to combat these builders. Meanwhile, on Earth, Thanos gets word that, all of the Avengers, well, for the most part, have left Earth and are in deep space, far away. So he's like, well, now's my time to strike at Earth. And he has 2 reasons for doing so. 1, he's after a certain Infinity Stone. 2, he wants to find his son, Thane. So two places on Earth factor into this plot very, very foremostly, I guess you would say. I can't think of words anymore, like words I used to know, like, oh yeah, I could do a sentence, no problem. Now I'm like, anyways, Wakanda, where one of the stones is held, and Atalan, the city of the Inhumans, where the information on where Thane is located resides. So you have this war in space with the builders going on, you have the defense against Thanos and his minions going on Earth. And all the while, there's so many heroes going about their business trying to fend off all these attacks. And at every turn, they seem to be turned back and defeated. But they keep at it, because that's what superheroes do. And will they win or will they lose? Is this the end of things as we know it? You have to read to find out. But a good story, but it's almost like the Bible. I read the Bible once just for shits and giggles to see what the whole fuss is about. That was a mistake, because it's ridiculous, but it's like so many names and so many planets and so many things going on. It's like a Lord of the Rings book too. It's like there's so many things to keep track of. You just kind of lose yourself along the way, but it's a great story and very action packed, of course, and definitely worth the read. Next up, recently watched the X-Men Dark Phoenix movie. Um, this takes place after X-Men Last Stand, is it? Or something like that? Anyways, it starts with a flashback to a young Jean Grey. She's driving down the highway with her parents, and she asks her mom, "Can you change the radio station? I don't like this junk." And her mom's like, "No." And she's like, "I'll do it with my mind then." So her parents start freaking out that she's manipulating the radio controls with her mind, and they get so distracted that her mom loses control of the car, crashes into a truck, dies instantly, and then this is the mid 70s or whatever. So then it flashes forward just a short while in time where a young Charles Xavier shows up to officially adopt her and take her back to the X Mansion, where she will be taught to control and embrace her powers, and she won't be a freak and all that. And then it flash forwards to 1992, when Jean Grey has just finally become a fully fledged member of the X-Men. She's a young woman, and after a shuttle launch, they get word that the shuttle has lost communications in deep space. Something's gone wrong. So the X-Men, including Mystique, Cyclops, of course, Nightcrawler, Jean Grey, of course, who else? Quicksilver, and I might be missing Beast. They all shoot up into space on one of their jets and investigate what's happening with the space station. The authorities think it's because of a solar flare, but when they get there, there's some sort of this mysterious cloud of energy or something that's causing the problem. So at the very last minute, they get all the astronauts removed from the spacecraft into the jet, but at the expense of Jean Grey kind of being the last person out of the shuttlecraft, and she ends up absorbing all of this energy from this mysterious cloud. And as they race to get her back to Earth and get her checked out, she reads okay and she feels great, but it turns out that this power she has absorbed actually starts breaking down some mental blocks in her mind that Xavier put up when she was just a child to block out the memories of that car crash day and all of the bad news that was surrounding it. So she starts breaking them down. She starts having all these flashbacks of that day and of her childhood after that, and she starts having all these fits of rage and she can't control it. So she ruins the celebration of their successful mission afterwards, and then later that night, against Cyclops's pleas, she leaves the X-Men. She doesn't want to hurt those that she's closest to. She goes back to her hometown where she grew up and confronts her father, who she learns is still alive, and gets these memories of him basically giving her away to Xavier. He doesn't want her anymore. He abandons her, and so she learns the truth of all that. She has more rage. The X-Men come to intercept her to stop her from doing anything drastic. She ends up killing Mystique in a fit of rage, not meaning to, of course. And so then she leaves again, goes to the island of Genosha, I guess, where Magneto has kind of gone into not hiding, but isolation with some of his followers. She wants him to teach her to control her emotions and her rage. And after the military show up and she obliterates them, he's like, "No, get out of here." So at the same time, this mysterious alien race has landed some of its members on Earth, and they are after this power that's inside of Jean Grey. So this entity named Vuk, I think her name is, or something like that, confronts Jean Grey and says, this is the truth behind what's going on inside of you right now and what that energy is. And so she kind of falls in with this crowd. And in the meantime, Magneto learns from Beast that Jean is responsible for Mystique's death. And so the two of them are totally enraged with her, and they go to New York City to try and destroy Jean Grey, while the rest of the X-Men get wind of this and go there to try and stop them. So while this whole battle's going on, Vuk, I think her name was, is that what it is? Something like that. Convinces Jean Grey to transfer that power from her to her, and which would basically mean the end of the Earth, because this alien race would turn this power against them. So they managed to stop this from happening at the last minute, and but after this battle, the authorities are able to get in there and subdue all the mutants, and then they are being transported by train to a secure facility, and that's when Vuk and her alien followers attack the train, and it's like kind of this one last battle between all the mutants and these aliens to decide the fate of the Earth, I guess, and so that's how it all kind of ends up. So I don't want to spoil it, but I've probably given you enough information already. But the X-Men movies I've found have kind of, compared to the other Marvel movies, they're not nearly as good. I was expecting more from that one. It was a good movie, but it wasn't great. I'm hoping that now that Marvel, I think, has the rights acquired from Fox and stuff, that they can get the X-Men into their continuity now and start making some better movies with the X-Men, because like that wasn't a bad movie, but it was like, yeah, it was okay. You know, it just wasn't, it doesn't grab you like a lot of the other Marvel movies. Like some of the Marvel movies now have been so good, like the Avengers are so good, Deadpool and Guardians are out of sight, right? So, you know, to watch a superhero movie that just doesn't quite grab you anymore, it makes it that much more disappointing, considering everything else that has been out there, right? So yeah, still worth the watch, still a good movie, but just not up to some standards that have been set otherwise, right? So to finish this off is a trio of video games. Me and James recently finished playing Mega Man 8. So the first 6 Mega Man games were released on the NES, the 7th on the Super Nintendo. Mega Man 8 somehow ended up on PS1 and I think Sega Saturn, maybe something like that. So it was kind of bizarre that Nintendo didn't put it on the GameCube or the 64 or whatever was going on around this time this was released. To see it go to Sony, it was kind of really weird. The story behind it is that these 2 meteors or something, crashed to Earth and or are hurtling through space and causing destruction. I don't remember exactly, but it's a couple of meteors hurtling towards the world, and so Mega Man goes to investigate. He sees Dr. Wily leaving the scene of this mystery happening, and he doesn't know what's going on, so he has to go investigate. And of course, he ends up meeting 8 robot bosses and has to put them in their place before dealing with Dr. Wily yet again. It's the same Mega Man format as usual, just with kind of a different storyline to start everything off. This game kind of is like, follows the Mega Man X format, where there's only 4 robots available to fight at first, and then once you beat them, there's 4 more, sort of thing. And then you end up going to Dr. Wily's castle, battling through 4 stages there before getting to Dr. Wily, and having to do a boss rush right at the end before Dr. Wily. So the robots in this one, if I can remember them, are Tengu Man, Astro Man, Clown Man, who's hilarious, Search Man, Sword Man, Grenade Man, which is really cool. There's a water guy too, like Wave Man or Aquaman, that might be it. Maybe I'm missing one. I don't know if that was all 8, but it's an awesome game. It's considering it was the first one that went from a Nintendo system to PS1 of all things. It fits right into the Mega Man style and continuity and consistency. It's an amazing game, and the fact that it was on the PlayStation 1, they had this added feature where it had a lot of cutscenes for the story, and which are really cool. It's kind of a more anime look to the cutscenes, but the best part was the voiceovers, especially for Dr. Light. He had this like weird voice, and he would like, Dr. Wily was like, "Oh, Dr. Wowee," and it's just it's like the funniest thing to watch when he's involved in the scene. It's just like his voice is hilarious and the way he speaks. So that was kind of an added benefit. That was like the surprise comedy part of it, right? So an awesome game. We had a lot of fun with it. Next up, MXGP 3 for the Nintendo Switch. This is like the official motocross game. So there's this circuit, I forget what it's called, but basically you go through real life circuit of international courses on these dirt bikes and just try to win. There's a career mode, so you can either play with an official racer in a real life racer, or you can create your own self as a racer and build points and improve your capabilities. And of course you can customize bikes along the way and stuff like that. So there's another game that I got. It was like a jet ski game for the Switch, and this one, they were only $19.99 to purchase, And I noticed with the jet ski one, it was like, yeah, this was an okay game, but not a good game, not a great game. Well, it was a good game, I guess, in some ways, but not anything that makes you go, oh wow. And I think that price tag kind of was justified in that. Like, these aren't crappy games by any means, but they're also not going to blow you away. So I think that $20 price mark for those two games were just perfect. I had a lot of fun playing this game, but I didn't look forward to playing it like I do a lot of other games, right? Where I just can't wait to get going on it again, right? This was just kind of one of those games that I just worked through when I had the time, and it was fun while it lasted, but I'm probably never going to play it again, right? So yeah, so that's about it. There's another game that I'm playing on right now on the PlayStation that's the same sort of thing. It's a Monster Energy one, and it's a lot better than this one. So, but I think they must be made by the same company because they're like the controls and the look of the game, like they're so similar in the setup and everything. So I'm assuming they're the same, but and the PlayStation one I'm playing right now is older than this one too, right? So they must have just mailed this one in to some degree, but still for $20, it's totally worth it. It's a good game for the price tag. So it's kind of one of those ones I just wanted to. Everything on the Switch seems so expensive because everything's like a Mario or a Luigi's Mansion or a Smash Bros or whatever, right? And they're like $80 and they never come down in price. Like you might get a one-time sale for 60 or something, right? But it's not like other games that come down. You eventually get them for $19.99 when they were brand new, $80 when they came out, right? So I just wanted to kind of get a bit of a collection started with some cheaper games. So I got those two games and they were good enough for the price, right? So that's about the best way to describe them. So last one, MudRunner by Spin Tires for the PS4. When I first saw this game advertised, I was like, oh my god, a truck driving game. I love like simulations with trucks. I don't have that many of them, but I remember when 18-wheeler or something like that came out on the GameCube years and years ago. I bought it and I played the Christ out of it. It was so much fun. There's something I love about trucks. I just can't help myself. And to get this game finally was just like was a bit of right. So it takes place in Siberia in Russia, and you are trying to develop the land there. So you're given these half dozen maps and a series of challenges where you basically have to deliver loads of lumber to lumber mills so they can build and create things. So you're taking these big trucks and navigating these really swampy, mucky environments, and going out to deliver these loads, and you have to deliver a certain amount of loads in each map to complete the level. And when you get each map to begin with, there's some of it's blacked out, and you have to get to these watch points that reveal the map, and you have to learn how to go about each map as you go. Unlocking the watch points I found is really important. That's like the first thing I started to do on every level as I moved along and learned how to play the game, because it reveals where the roads are and stuff. And sometimes if you're just going blindly and you end up in the muck, it can be so hard and so time consuming and you use so much more fuel to get through that type of environment. Whereas you can, when the map's revealed, you can say, okay, there's a road there, and that's the fastest route where I can get from here to there. It may not be the shortest route, but it's going to be the fastest because I'm going on at least something resembling a road where I'm not going to be running into all these hazards and stuff, right? So a lot of the trucks, you have your differential locks, your 4-wheel drive, you have a winch on every vehicle, so when you get into trouble you can try and pull yourself out. You can use other trucks to refuel your truck if you run out of gas, to repair your truck, to use a winch and tow your truck out of a spot. So there's all these different strategies and functions you can use to get you from point A to point B and eventually get all this lumber delivered. So yeah, it was a really different experience because it's such a slow moving game because you're slogging through the wilderness, right? But there's a lot of strategy and thinking to it in trying to lay out how you're going to get each map done, the most efficient way to do it, right? So I had a lot of fun with it. I couldn't beat the last map because it was called Deluge, so it's just like there's water everywhere and deep water. So I tried it and I was like, I sunk one of my first vehicles and I'm like, you know what, no. I don't have the patience to get through this one, but all the other ones I got through eventually, and I did most of the challenges that were involved in the game too. So I had a ton of fun with this game, and there is a follow-up called American Wilds, which I do have on the Switch. I just haven't started playing yet. So I can't wait to get started on that one as well. But if you like that kind of game and stuff, I highly recommend these games because it's a super amount of fun. So yeah, so that's everything for now. I will be back in the near future with more, and until then, well, I'll be back with other stuff before then. Who are we kidding? So until my next video, stay warm, yo.